Welcome to Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. I'm Kathy, and this season is dedicated to exploring the unique world of raising boys. Parenting boys today can feel like trying to crack a complicated code, a mystery, especially when it comes to understanding their inner emotional world. Together, we'll dive into real life stories, share practical tips, and uncover insights to help you and your son thrive, not just survive. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's unlock the parenting code, one boy at a time. Welcome back to Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. I'm your host, Kathy, and today I'm excited to welcome Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre. Genevieve is a mom of two energetic boys, the founder and main host of the Mom Talk podcast, and co-curator of Faces, a book celebrating women and community leaders making meaningful impact. She is definitely a woman of influence and integrity, and I'm excited to learn more. Genevieve, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Catherine. We've been going back and forth for a little bit, and it's a pleasure to share my knowledge about boys because I do have two very active little boys. So thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I wonder if you can start it off and let us hear your thoughts about boys.
Well, all my life, Catherine, I thought I was going to have a girl. It's just like I just knew I'm a girly girl myself. And my brother passed away from ALS when he was 35-year-old. And at his wedding, 3 years prior his death, when his passing, um, I promised him if I have a boy, I was going to call him like him. And at that moment, I knew I was going to have a boy. It was for sure. And sure enough, first one came. He has my brother's name, Alexandre. I have French little boys. And yes, he's named after my brother. I have promised. And after this, I felt exact same way when I was pregnant with the second one. So I knew with Catherine it was another boy.
Oh, that's beautiful. Meant to
Yeah,
be.
I think so. I think so. Yes.
So you mentioned that you have some points that parents who are raising boys might benefit from hearing and having some thoughts about. Could you share those with us?
Yes, absolutely. I think today we're going to be a little bit talking about like the danger of overbooking our boys, specifically boys, right? And I was thinking about different things and I came up with 15 points that actually me and my husband, because I'm not the only one doing this, right? We were very careful when we were booking our boys and how we're going to do it. And everything is based on attachment. I'm sure, Catherine, you touch on attachment quite a bit, the importance of attachment. So we'll be touching on that a little bit. Also, I'll be sharing some of my personal vision and also usually basic rules on attachment. But the first one I want to talk about is I think it's very important I want to talk about connection, build trust, and emotional safety. So, what I mean with that, our boys thrive when they feel deeply connected to the adult they live with. So, parents, grandparents, it can be teachers also, right? So, time spent in genuine connection builds emotional safety, which helps our boys open up, express emotions, and feel seen. I think it's important in this day and age. We're so busy, we're behind our phone, we're doing all kind of different things. And I think children these days are a little bit feeling and are not as seen as maybe like back in the days. Also, mom and dad works now. It's busy, life is expensive, and sometimes we have no choice. So I think emotional uh, safety and the connection bonds come from maybe stopping and putting your phone aside and spending time with them, connecting, like letting them lead. I will be talking about that a little bit later, but I think that's very important for connection.
Yeah, I
So that's the
agree.
first point. Yeah, I don't know how you were with your son, Catherine, when he was little. How did you connect with him? What was your tips?
Well, first of all, I was an older mom when we
Mm-hmm.
had our son. He was a bit of a miracle child because I wasn't supposed to have children. I grew up in a heavy populated female environment. I grew up during the women's liberation, so I knew a lot about girls, females, and I also knew that I didn't, if I had a female, I would, it's a blessing, whatever you get. But I didn't want a girl because I understood about that and I worried that I would be putting some of my baggage on the girl because I could relate better. So I was quite excited to have a little boy. And because it was a whole new world that opened up to me, it was it was fascinating. I was always curious because it wasn't the same. He didn't react the same. He didn't think the same. He didn't communicate the same. And he just was the center of our world. So attachment was something that happened, right out of the gate and just continues to grow even as an adult son now.
And I see how creating the space for attachment, it's so important, right? Which leads to my second point. Emotional development requires a space. So emotional growth doesn't just happen when we're rushing. We're rushing from one activity to the other, and we think our children develop so well by rushing from one place to the other place, right? So I think our boys need some quiet moments, unstructured play or time to process their feelings. I think we're so busy, and sometimes they don't even know where to start. They don't even know what are those feelings. So um, I think understand there's experience and built emotional vocabulary around that. So what I mean with this also is when I'm thinking about feelings, I'm thinking when my son, I'll give you an example. Alex was a bit frustrated. Alex gets frustrated. He's just like, they're feeling and they're like, oh, he's gonna be so Nathan's gonna be like disappointed and he's gonna cry easy, so easy. But if we don't take the time to say, okay, I know you're mad or you're disappointed, why are you feeling sad? Like we're rushing everywhere, and there's new feelings that comes with time as they grow. When they're little, is a little like it's all big feelings, but they're little. We talk about the basic ones, but as we get older, we have to teach them about like disappointment or the expectation wasn't met or what were you waiting for, like all these things. I found when we're rushing always from one place to the other ones, those feelings shows up, and there's some learning moments that are missed when we're rushing.
Well, and I
Yes.
think that ties in with the first one, like very, very closely. Like for us as a family, our biggest times of connection were when we left home, when we went camping, when we went hiking, when we spent time in nature. And those were the times I think that helped all of us self-regulate so that we could attach better. And when emotions did come out, it was easier to process them and talk about them. So those two things go very, very close together.
Yes, it is. You're right. And now the next one I want to talk about, it's emotional development require um, space, but also what I want to say, it's high energy is natural. It's not a problem. So we need space, but then don't worry, our kids has high energy, and that is not a problem. I feel many boys have intense physical like need. Instead of viewing this as like we have to manage it, we're kind of suppressing it a little bit. So they do need an environment that allows them like to have a healthy outlet for movement, play, and also sensory input. So I feel like overlooking them because they can't handle it as a parent, it's not necessarily like a solution. So I think we have to think in a nutshell is high energy is not a problem. If we can handle it, we have to visit or think about why we can't handle it as a parent. Because what I'm seeing sometimes, Catherine, is people are putting their kids into two activities a night because they can't handle the energy of their children, right? So we have to realize if it's the us problem as a parent or if it's a problem, yeah, my child has a lot of energy and I can't let him be and have his own safe play or discovery play by himself because I can't handle it as a parent. And that's a bit of there's two things here that we have to touch on. And I do think that having a safe space when they can be full of energy, we have to find a way that we can be in peace with it, even if it's at home. Some parents they can't handle noise. I don't know for you, Catherine, but sometimes I have to tell my boys go play outside. I can't even I can't even cook. I can't do anything, right? Which I think is there's a normal, there's times that it's normal, but there's time also when they can't express themselves, they can't do anything because us as a parent is too much. We have to start, we have to have a conversation with ourselves also.
Okay, this is a big one for me because
Oh
of
yeah.
education. And that's one of the areas of misunderstanding about boys and what is their natural
Mm-hmm.
tendency and how they learn best. So that is the makeup of a boy. They do have more energy, and that's chemical, hormonal, whatever, it is, but that's a natural component of most boys. They need to be more physically active for everything. So when you look at how the educational system is set up first, that is not geared for the way little boys learn. The things that you mentioned, that's the way they learn. Their brain works better when their body is moving. That is the natural state for them to be in. They learn better when they're involved in things
Mm-hmm.
that they can put their hands on, that they can create, that they can manage. That's not the way the system is set up. And so without some accommodation so that they don't feel like squelched in and like that they're not good enough because they don't learn the same way that the little girls in the school do. Um, they have all this built up energy. You look at a group of kindergartners who go out for recess, and the minute the doors open, the minute the bell rings, it's like they're, you know, thrown out of a cannon and they move constant for however many minutes they're allowed to be outside for recess. It is constant movement. The other part of what you said that I think is also something to recognize as a parent is the difference between the genders also comes up, with moms and dads. So in general, if a dad and his son are doing something, they're usually doing something active. And that's just how they work well together. They're males. And it's almost an understanding I will say for myself, I needed to up my level of activity in order to stay a part of a world that was the best environment for my son. So it meant I needed to go on the bike rides. I needed to be playing baseball with everybody else. That's their natural way. So if a parent is finding it too much, then I think the thing to look at is this because of male and female thing? And if it is, then just you make the adjustments so that your son is the one who's able to thrive in the environment that he needs at that point in his life.
Mm-hmm. I like the point that you're bringing. And it is true that some parents can probably handle more activities or can go to more, and the other one maybe more introvert or then cannot handle as much. And I like that point in you adding because it is true that as if you're like a two-person parenting a child, I think it's a conversation to have within the unit, and then you can actually like the person that is actually able to hang out with the child and be outside more than the other one, like divide and conquer. And if you're by yourself, then maybe the neighbors wants to hang out a little bit, and maybe sometimes it's your turn, sometimes it's their turn, but then you have a little bit of your own space also as a parent. I think we have to talk about that. We have to respect ourselves also, but I feel like one of my messages, like, try to find other things that would work for you as a parent. If it's a problem, if you find it's too much for you and your solution is to send your children to a point and they're overbooked, and often we're going to get to that, Catherine, but often when they're overbooked, the problem is behavior problems happen,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly.
So yes, exactly. And then the other point I want to talk about, and that's going to circle right back to this, is overbooking increased stress and burnout for the child and also for us parents, moms and dads. So constant activity and scheduling, like the constant commitment, leads to physical and emotional fatigue. We become tired. We know we're running from one place to the other. We're not present. And then now we try to catch up work behind our phone as a parent, or we if we have two children, one child is there while the other one is watching the other one on the phone because they're waiting. So is that increasing
I think for
screen
sure.
time? Screen time? When in my world, we're trying to decrease screen time, but if I know I've seen it, one child's going there, the other one is bored. He's bored. It's raining outside. He's not going out. I'm by myself. My husband's working, and I can't be there watching both. And of course, I have to stay and watch what's happening. So yeah, you give the phone away, and I realized no, this is not working. This is not a solution either. So I think I had to stop a little bit and watch what happens when I actually have to bring both of my children to one of them activity. And not only the one that was being scheduled, the one that was with me also was getting tired. So not so that's interesting. I think you have to look at how your children behave with all this. After a while, they did find another friend they could play with, but for a while it was more screen time, and that was not a good option for me. But I think boys sometimes they can become a little bit more irritable, anxious, and disengaged if they're overscheduled also. Um, it's more difficult for them because also I think they feel a little bit overlooked. You know, it's kind of go, go, go. There's not enough time. And so I did notice a little bit more stress when my children was overlooked. And I have to say that when COVID came for us, we stopped everything. And I realized all this when I'm talking about, it was a little bit of me and my husband that, oh, they have to could be good at skating. They have to take care of this lessons and they have to, we were excited as parents to expose our children to everything. And we realized there was a huge tornado that stopped with COVID. And we're like, never again. And now I'm doing something different. But it took COVID for us to realize that we were in that tornado. And I'm sure I'm not the only parents that did that. Mm-hmm.
No, and I think well, I mean, that's kind of, one of the silver linings of the pandemic, but I don't think that people recognize how, like, all parents are doing it from the place of you want to create an environment of experiences where your child thrives. You want them, especially if you're going from your own upbringing. If you wish you had had singing lessons and you didn't, and you see the same tendency in your child, then you're going to do everything you can to make sure they have the opportunities that you didn't. And then
Mm-hmm.
you add in the world that parents are living in today, the world that is, so heavily involved in social media. So when you're sitting there as a parent and your child is only going to two activities a week, and then you look at someone else and, they're talking about all the benefits they're getting from this and that and the other thing, then you start thinking, well, my kid is missing out. I'm not doing enough as a parent. And I think it's really challenging for young parents today. And yet, in the same light, when people can stop, like this whole concept of unplugging, go away for the weekend with your family and unplug, just to feel like you felt during the pandemic, what it feels like when you don't have all those external influences, when you can really just kind of reconnect, be in the moment, and experience all the feelings that go with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough for
Yes.
parents.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough for parents. And I think I realized that I needed downtime.
Mhm.
I realized my children needed downtime. And also all this to realize that creativity and imagination needs downtime, right? If we run, 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 like unstructured time, it's super essential for imaginative play, for let your kids be bored. Let's create some creative thinking or problem solving or I think all these little moments. It can be an afternoon, depends, like whatever your child's doing, right? But these moments that are like kind of open-ended play support, like also we know it supports cognitive development and emotional regulation. So letting them play, letting them be bored in some ways, my kids come and get me, mommy, I'm bored. Okay, what are we gonna do? which game have you didn't play in a long time? We have this beautiful playroom. You haven't opened this drawer in a long time and this drawer in a long time. What are we going to find in there? Well, I have found that if I don't teach them what to do when they're bored, they were doing nothing. They were just saying, I'm bored. So it kind of stopped. And now more and more, my children are 6 and 8 now, that they know what to do if they're bored. But once in a while, they still circle back to mommy and they want to know. And they kind of want to, of course, they want to check on me to see what I'm doing, right? But I feel like I had to teach them what to do when they're bored. And when we were super booked, I didn't have a lot of time they didn't have a lot of time to realize they were bored. They didn't know a lot. They didn't have time to even like think about what else can we do. So that for me was a really good. It was a really good thing when we stopped and let them let them find their games, and let them regulate themselves. Because another thing also, Catherine, is they were often separate. When COVID came, I realized my children were fighting a lot together because they were so busy and they didn't really know how to play with each other without fighting. Mm-hmm. And one little tip we have developed in my family, if I take I'm going to take a little, I'm going to do a little bracket here. And another little tips I have to take with my family is I take some activities they like and stuff like this. And I said, okay, we're going to do this very specific activity. But if you guys fight, we're not going to do it. Sometimes I have to do this with them. I said, now we're going to go home. You're going to do your things. And we're going to work this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We're going to go to, let's say, to the movie theater. We're going to the movie theater, but mommy, like, you guys are going to be playing this afternoon. If something's happened, you need to fix the problem. Again, my children are 6 and 8 right now. I don't think so you can do this with a 3 and 4 year old. It's not going to work, right? But at that age, it is working. And I know I can hear them there. Wow, Alex is getting frustrated. And I hear it because Alex does that. And Nathan starts like, because Nathan starts crying. He's my sensitive one, right? And I can see it goes a little bit. And then, no. We can't fight. We have to find a solution because otherwise we're not going to the movie theater. So that's another thing that happened with my family. And I celebrate them after. I heard you guys had a couple episodes. I heard this and I heard that. And I heard you guys you found a solution. And that is amazing. And we celebrate those victories without interfering. Sometimes, Catherine, I do have to interfere. Sometimes it happens, right? It's life, they're little. But I do feel that's another little win I want to share that came from repeating it and from taking something they really want and giving them the tools to play, but also giving them the tools to how to fix problems and give them the space to actually make. Sometimes, you know what, they find a solution I didn't even think about. And that's from their own little imagination.
I think there's a very strong, prominent tendency of us as parents to step in far too soon and solve problems for children when what they need is exactly what you've done. They need to understand what the skills are to solve conflict, to work out differences of opinions, to be able to regulate together what the emotions are because they have a common outcome that they want to get from it. The other thing I wanted to say too, though, is there seems to be a more of a tendency in this generation of feeling as the parent that you always have to be entertaining your child. Like it's so common. I've heard so many moms telling me that. And I don't know where that started. I don't know if that's also a social media thing. But again, you said one step earlier, you were talking about giving them the time to be bored. And through all of life, I think that's the truth. Some of the most creative and imaginative and those things come out of having space in your head to just think. And if you're overscheduled, if you're not having time to be bored, then you don't ever have that opportunity to find that spot in your own thinking. And that's a life skill that if we can intentionally parent that, for our children, that's going to serve them well.
Absolutely. I think even businesses sometimes to create imagination, to create development of a product, or like just reconnected. They will take you on holiday, let's say. And I've seen this quite often. The first 3 days, nothing. Relax, have fun. And then we'll have the other 3 days, we're going to sit down around around a table, and I've noticed a lot of space that are very relaxed. I feel this is the new way I'm hearing anyways. But and then there's no wrong or right. Let's just be together, and let's now then we relax. People have ideas. People have like they're more connected. So even as adults and through businesses, people are using that exact
Absolutely.
example. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think if we go back to our little boys, the boys need the opportunity to lead themselves. I think overschedule it leaves them with very little room for self-direction. So we decide everything for them. They're going this, they're doing that, we're doing this, and then I think there's a lot. We lose the benefit of like how they can choose their activities, how they can initiate their play, how they can even like think about their own like curiosities. And also, if we think about it, all these little things that we learned as children, it's developing them as future humans of the world. And that is skills for adulthood. And we know, right? We often take a decision like we took decision when we were 5 years old. And sometimes people, even adults, live their life like a 5 year old. Sometimes when I see my own reaction out of things, I'm like, whoa, Jen, where was that? We worked on that. But sometimes it does come back. So there's little boys that actually are developing. And if we give them like the opportunity to lead themselves, let's create the leaders of the world. Why not, right? So I do think that's another thing we have to think about when we overschedule them and we don't let them lead, and specifically if we decide everything for them. I do think when we schedule certain activities, like my boys just started martial arts. They love it. They go 3 times a week, which I think it's a lot, honestly, Catherine, 3 times a week. The first 2 days of the week, they do different skills, and the third time of the week, they review this. Well, they want to go right now 5 times a week. They're so into it. And I know things have phases, right? But I'm gonna go with their leads. We stopped. We're little snowboarders. We stopped snowboarding. Snowboarding's went to allow this thing, and then after this summer, we personally do not schedule anything in my family. The July and August, it's a complete off of all scheduling. The only thing we do schedule here and there, it's we have a little French camp. So they go with their friends and they do whatever they do there, but it's not activity to activity to activities.
Mhm.
So that's a bit different. So it's like a day camp. I mean, mom and dad needs to work at one point, right? So we don't have the opportunity to bring your children to that work, but it's different. So that's one thing we have adapted during the July and August, that we don't schedule our boys with their regular school year activities. And I did find that my kids, when the school year started again, they're so excited to go back because Monday night there's a bit of basketball and they pick another one. Like right now we're in martial art, like I said, right? That's it too. But they look forward to it. So that's something I noticed, that sometimes taking a break for little ones, and also let them choose, let them like give them this time to lead themselves. It worked in my family. I don't know for you, Catherine, if it's something that did you do different activities for different seasons?
We did martial arts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love the
person,
discipline of martial art, by the way, too. Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I also think that's one of the things that all children should have. I think every human being should understand how to protect themselves. And so, yes, our son did that, and he was a baseball kid. He loved baseball. So during baseball season, that was it. But it was different. Like I said, I have an adult child, and we were living in a country that wasn't my country, and so things were different when he was growing up. But the concept of having them lead and following their lead, I think, is kind of a golden nugget for parents, especially with boys. They have such a strong sense of shame that
Mm-hmm.
it when they have the opportunity to shine, to show their leadership skills, to their thinking skills, it just it just fills their whole soul. And so the more opportunities that we can create like that, I think it can be very powerful for them. And I love that summer is different. And it's not that, oh, they're not in school, so we have to at least fill in enough activities to cover a time that they would have been in school. I love that children get to have a real break during those summer months. School is like a full-time job, even if they love it.
Mhm. Oh yeah. And I do feel like for me during the summer, it's a all new realm of like connection with my kids. And it's funny because I don't know if any parents are listening right now, at the end of the school year, our kids start behaving differently a little bit. They're tired, they're done. They're ready for something else. So I do feel like connection totally reduce the risk of behavioral issues because through connection, I do notice that I would say connection. I would add also in there overstimulation. Through connection, like disconnection and overstimulation creates behavioral problem. So I noticed that with my kids. I noticed that also with other people's kids at school. Teacher also are noticing it. So when summer comes, they're disconnected, they're overstimulated, and also if you're overbooked, I noticed that also happens. So the summer, taking a break, doing things different. For me, in my family, that worked really well. And I noticed their behaviors. It's just they're tired. They just, I don't want to go, mommy. It's like sometimes it's just a little more whining. It doesn't have full blown. But I have also seen parents that have like big problems. Like it's like the child's becoming like disrespectful. They're tired and they had to stop everything. And I totally recommend this. Honestly, if you're seeing, I don't really mind if you're in the middle of a full hockey season and you're noticing now your child is acting up, school's not working, you're always running around, take a week off. Take a complete week off and evaluate what's happening here. Because you'll notice if your child after a week is a huge change in behavior, maybe it's more than a week, honestly, but if there's a change of behavior in the problems being like disrespectful, like with you, with your husband, with people around, at school disengaging, overbooked, he's disconnected, they're tired, and sometimes you will have your own answer by your own little 1 2 weeks little test here. And I know it's hard because when you're a team, you're in a hockey team or you're a soccer team, or then you don't want to let people down. And you paid good money to be part of this team. But if your children is acting up, for me, it's more important to look at and like have a conversation with the coach saying, you know what, I'm going to take a week off. There's things happening here. I'm worried about this. And sit down and take time with your child. It's not that the child that needs to stop. It's also the adult that needs to stop. Maybe you may have to cancel a couple of meeting that week because you need to spend time with him or with we're talking about boys, but it could be girls also, right? So I feel like sometimes as an adult, we are also rescheduling ourselves and we also can also start acting up because we're not as patient. We're not as present. And I can
Um,
go on, right?
well, it's interesting because it coincides exactly with my experience connected with screen time. So when like in school, in the classroom, if I had a young child in kindergarten who his behavior was becoming more problematic and it was just going downhill. That first meeting that I would have with the parents, the first question I would ask is how much screen time is that child having?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would ask them, just take a break. Take a break for, a month and lay it out how it looked and use me as the teacher, as the bad guy, and so that because it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult to take the child off. But the difference in behavior was phenomenal. Like it
Oh yeah.
was very clear that too much of anything will cause problems. And like you said, it will be through misbehavior that it comes out. And if we only address the misbehavior, we're missing a golden opportunity to find out what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. And it might be with ourselves also as a parent,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yes.
they're overbooked. We are also overbooked. We are
Yeah.
also tired. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that. And I think also, you know what? Like if we like they feeling handled, like it's, I think in some ways is it's basically impacting their self-worth because like they don't have like I think in some ways they're feeling managed, they're feeling like they can take their own decision, and I think there's an impact also on that, like not letting them uh, being who they want to be at one point. I think it can definitely impact their own dialogue in their own head. How, and we don't even teach them how to think by just taking care of everything.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
I had when you were just talking there, it reminded me of painful situation that we had once. I was running a school. My husband and I were running a preschool, and we had a student that would come in, like it wasn't full days, it was parts of days. And she would come in 3 days a week for an hour and a half after going to like a pre-kindergarten program. She was 4 and then she turned 5. She was with us for 2 years. And at one point, in the second year she was with us, she was down to only coming to us 2 days a week. And every single day, she had a minimum of one other outside activity. And she was doing like cram work to prepare her for the test to get into elementary school. So her schedule every single day, except Sunday afternoon, was full. And what happened to that little girl was she had like I could only be classified as a breakdown. She
Mm-hmm.
refused to go to school. She refused to get out of bed. After 2 weeks, she agreed to come just to our school. And I think it was just because there was no pressure there. Like we followed children's lead. It was a safe environment. It wasn't high pressure. And she was a perfect, and it didn't matter if that was a girl or a boy, perfect example of how devastating it can be. Like to have a child 5 years old have a breakdown. It was just incredible. But what you're talking about, overscheduling, I don't think we realize how damaging it can be to our children. Really important
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah, and to our families.
Yes.
And when you're talking about that little girl, it made me think about yes, we're overscheduling or overbooking our children. And we have to make the difference between physical activity and overbooking because my boys needs to be active. They need to go
Mhm.
outside. They need to do, it's just there's a difference between like them having going outside and find some friends and run like at soccer or go to the park and stuff like this. That's one thing. But booking them and they
Yeah.
don't have that time or that space to go and develop their social skills. So there's a bit of a difference here.
Yeah.
So I feel it's very important also because I have seen some parents, some families that are so scheduled, they don't have time to play with the kids around.
Mhm.
And that's a problem because later on, they don't have time to do anything with their neighbors. They don't have time to do people like to just go to the park. Maybe they're going to meet little Johnny. They're going to meet a new person that they don't even know. And they don't have time because everything is scheduled.
Yeah.
And that's a little
Exactly.
bit of, I think we have to think about that. Like children, like our boys needs to be physical. They like to play sports. My kids likes to play sports. They just have to, right? And even like before to go to bed, I have some time. I have to say to Alex, okay, you're gonna kick 10 more kicks of soccer outside, then you need to come back. I have to put limit to things sometimes because they
Yeah.
want it so much. But I notice in my family there's a big difference between that, between the physical activity and the overbooking. Because when I was talking with other parents, that came up. Well, my kids are not overbooked because
Mm.
no. They realized they were overbooked because they didn't have time when we were talking to do anything else around them. They were like, oh, maybe my kids are actually overbooked, but they didn't think about it that way. So
Yeah.
that's something we have to think about. Is your kids? I mean, depends on the age, of course, right? But if they're little, maybe you, as a parent, and we have to do those little play date when they're little. But I think that's very important.
I
Because we know,
agree.
yeah, the boys, they I feel boys process connection through play. So you get them to play, And I think maybe that's a little bit different than girls here because I think some girls who connect verbally, girls can't, not all boys, okay, but some girls are more verbal. They'll talk more. I know in my boys personally, I can see it. It's definitely through physical play. They like to share different activities, or also, yeah, they like to be side by side and they interact, but they connect like that. So I can see Nathan's going to be playing, Alex going to be playing, and then all of a sudden their play gets together and then they play together. So I noticed I had to give space and time for that also. Mm-hmm.
Again, that's
And
recognizing some
yeah.
of the differences between, little boys and little girls. So the thing that you said about, well, that's about communication, side to side communication rather than face to face, which females are more comfortable with. Um, Doing things independently and then melding into, because boys really have um, a strong desire for like a team, a group, a clan. And when they, and maybe part of that is because inside they're empowered to, they make the rules, they, decide what's fair,
Mm-hmm.
what's not fair. And to have the time to do that is what a lot. But the one thing I want to say though, because I want people to understand that no matter, all these mistakes, really, they are mistakes that we make as parents. I think it's really important for us to take really deeply and also to I tell my son all the time, like, I'm doing the best I can with what I know in the moment. And it might, down the road, it might be, oh, that was a terrible thing that I did for my kid. But as long as he understands, I thought it was the best thing at the time. I gave you my best. So I think because it's too easy to go down the guilt road.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. And it's funny when you were talking about when you were coming back on what I said, like boys sometimes will play side by side and interact and connect like that. It's known that men or husbands or men in general are more like, they'll be in the car and they'll talk, but they're both looking at
Yeah.
the road front, which women will more interact in a way that we're next to each other, we'll look at each other, we'll talk more, right? So I don't think our little boys are not so different than the adult or the husband, my husband, or anybody we live with. I think we look at that, it's not that much different. And we have to understand how little boys works, how they think, how they grow and how they connect to give them the space to connect through all these type of plays also. So yeah, I have to add the piece on husbands, and on this my husband like this, if I need to talk with him, yeah, in the car looking at the front, it will be a better
There are
conversation
so
sometimes.
many, yeah, there are so many things. And if you learn them about your boy, it
Mm-hmm.
will transfer into all your relationships with males. It will change everything when you
Mm.
really understand what those differences are, what the challenges are, and how you can be better together. It will affect all your relationships with men.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. And I mean, for their mental health, for our mental health, and for the mental health of our little ones, they need space. Like we all need space through like all of this to have some quiet time, to unschedule have an unscheduled time. It's also like, I don't know for you, Catherine, but for me, I feel when I'm on schedule, that's when my imagination comes in, but also it gives me the time to rest, to reflect. Emotionally, I need to rest also, and our little ones also need to emotionally rest. Also with our husband, right? So I like to touch on like mental health here because we have to take care of our mental health when it's healthy. I like actually to say, uh, I like to say mental health as it's a mental workout. We take care of our physical health, and sometimes we forget to think about our mental health in a way that we have to actually do the exercise to stay healthy. But it's same thing for our little ones, for our boys specifically, that are so active and they're doing so many things. And often we talk about ADHD and ADD and then all these things, right? And we don't give them any time to rest. So I do think that also, I think it's crucial because it prevents anxiety, depression, emotional overload in little boys and with us also. I think it's important to talk about that uh, let's to have healthy to be healthy mentally. We have to think about it when things are good, right? Not just wait when actually now I see some sign of anxiety with my son, or I see this and I see that, and now we start informing ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
I
Like, I think
Yeah.
we have to become much more aware of how our little boys are growing up and the challenges that they're facing in society, and that by not recognizing them, we can't do anything about them. So you have to recognize that there is an issue first. And if you start looking at the statistics around mental health of men and all the components of mental health and suicide rates and depression,
Mm,
and realize that most of that, or that a great number of men who have those experiences don't cry out for help. So the statistics right now are extremely high, and there's still probably a very small representation of what's going on. So until we are aware that there is a problem for our males, we can't do anything about it. So once we do become aware, then it's our job to learn more so that we understand. So what can we do in our homes? Like not scheduling so much, like recognizing their need for physical movement and connection, deep connection. And it's really important.
mhm. And I'm a big advocate on get informed before there's a problem. So be informed about anxiety on little boys. Be informed on depression with little boys or with boys, and even young boys, teenagers. Like I say little boys, but it's really like the
Everyone.
full realm of it, right? And we can go also to men. I feel if you see it coming, it will be much less of a problem because you're informed as a parent, as a mom, as a dad, to know how to address it right away. I think a lot of cases of depression and anxiety, uh, we wait until it's way in to consult and see someone. Big problem. They don't want to go to school anymore. They are like completely disengaged with the family. Like to a point now we need to consult with someone. So inform yourself. And this is a good piece here because when you see that little sign, you can stop right away and says, okay, what's happening here? We need to talk. Do we need to take a break?
I think too,
Right?
when you recognize that it shows up different. So
Mm-hmm.
anxiety and depression in women, we recognize that very easily because we cry, we don't have, we're lethargic, you understand, and we will talk about what's bothering us. You ask a little girl, she'll tell you what's bothering her. With a little boy, he's going to probably be something with misbehavior and aggression. So maybe he's going to be, hitting his little sister or having trouble in the playground at school. And it behind
Mm-hmm.
every misbehavior is some unmet emotional need. But the little
Mm-hmm.
girl can show us immediately, we can see, that what she needs, and she's able to tell us. The little boy is misbehaving. And that's how he is showing he's depressed, he's anxious, he's lonely, he's scared. It's different. So until we can recognize that, we can't support them.
Mm-hmm. And also, we have to teach them, they have to learn how to self regulate themselves, right? Sometimes they don't really know, like they're behaving because we're talking about overscheduling right now, but it could be a lot of different things that we notice that the behavior is changing, right? But overbooking, overbooking sometimes it becomes a form of control. The parents are overbooking their children, so they're trying to control their boys. And like I touched on, sometimes because they have a hard time dealing with all these activities and emotions and all these things, right? But that's not teaching them how to regulate themselves. So I do feel sometimes we need to stop and look, okay, now when the emotion comes down, when we have found our peace a little bit, now, okay, what happened? What was there for you? And how can we do different? And I think this is not one conversation. This is many conversation we need to have with our boys, because I noticed you frap, you hit. Sorry, my French sometimes show up, guys. You frap,
Okay.
you hit little Billy there, but he didn't want to share, and I was frustrated. And I noticed you did that with Catherine also the other day, or you did that with Grace. And I'm noticing now it's happened a couple times. So let's talk about this. What can we do instead? Children, we have to tell them what to do instead. We cannot just say, don't do this. We have to say, okay, instead of this emotion, we are when maybe you need to turn around and find another game, or you need to say, okay, you're gonna have this game, well, I'm gonna have this one, and in 5 minutes we're gonna switch, depend on children's age. But this is a conversation we need to have many times with our children. And when they're little, it's often little things like this, but when they're older, it becomes bigger things. And as adult, it becomes like self-regulation. I mean, even when I have a discussion with my husband, sometimes I catch myself. I'm like, oh gosh, like I must have been tired. Like I have this rule in my home, like that if I did not sleep more than 6 hours, if I know I'm off, if I know I'm agitated sometime. I don't know if it's a normal time of the month. Now, ladies, we can talk about the real things, right? If it's any of that, I do not take decision about anything. I need to stop. And then I notice also this time, my children sometimes act more, but I don't think so. It's them. Sometimes it's me that is less patient. So that's why I'm like, okay, I think I'm off here. Let's be honest. I'm just gonna, maybe it's a time for just snuggle and have a movie and not do so much. Take a break on homework, because that's another thing. We talk about activities, but we have to think about homework. That is part of, in my home, the activity is also sometimes doing the homework. And in my home, I'm teaching them French. So they're learning English with the world. They're going to French school. My husband is English, and they have to come home, and I have to do the homework in French because my husband doesn't speak French. So that's another level of complicity. Then you cannot tag on when I'm tired. My husband's like, I don't want me to do this. He's trying sometimes, but the pronunciation is completely off. And I'm trying to teach my kids another language. So it is, I totally get it. It's hard sometimes with all this together, all mixed up together. Sometimes, we have to learn to regulate ourselves and to trust ourselves. That sometimes
And I
we
think
need to stop.
to understand what great role modeling that is. If if you point that out to your children, I didn't sleep well last night, so this is, I can't handle this one
Mm-hmm.
today. It is such good, solid role modeling.
Yes, absolutely. And with all this, take a break. And sometimes I don't know for you, Catherine, but when I feel like this, I actually like to stop everything and maybe be bored a little bit. And my children surprised me so many times because it was kind of a gateway to growth also. Like I told them, like you said, like I said, mommy's off a little bit. I'm tired. Is it okay if we do something else? Or if we just relax tonight? Maybe we're not gonna go hang out with the neighbors. Maybe we're not gonna do certain things. And we connected because they actually really got what was happening for me. And of course, I share things that is shareable for the age that is
Yeah.
appropriate. Because if you fight with your husband, that is not something you share with your child. Even if you're frustrated with work, there's certain things they don't need to know. There's certain age, and even like we have to be careful. Sometimes we're frustrated, and they're there, and their little ears are listening to our frustration of the day. But sometimes I can just give them more anxiety and more like they become that they have to do something to make us happy. And there's a trap into this. Our children should not have to work for our love or for thinking that we will love them more if they do and say certain things.
Yeah.
I think that we have to be careful with that also. If I add a little part on this here, I think it's very important. And I think strong foundations come from like slowing down and being present, and just give them just create a healthy relationship by slowing down and knowing and being aware of this. So if you find then you're actually in a big tornado and you're doing so much and you're not sure what you're doing wrong, I think we need to let our boys lead the way. Give them a bit of space. Be honest to yourself. we have to guide them for them to learn to have oh my goodness, to emotionally connect with their friends, with us, with their teacher. And often it's by slowing down, then we create the space for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. If there's one thing that people can take out of this, that's the thing. Just
Mm-hmm.
to slow down and the value of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a thing I like to say all the time with we have mentioned that a lot on our podcast, Mom Talk, is, and I think we hear that quite often. You probably heard it also, Catherine. It's also connect before to correct.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think it's a very, very, we hear about it a lot, and maybe in a parenting buzz sentence, but and the way to do it, if I give an example, what I say to my, let's say my little Alex, what I tell him is, mommy loves you very much, but the way you behave right now is completely unacceptable. We're going to go in the car now and we're going to talk about it there. And I stop. Blah, blah, blah. We say so much as parents. We say so much. We need some time to stop talking. We talk too much, I think. I talk too
Women.
much.
Women do.
Yes. Well, you
Yes.
know what? Actually, my husband is a talker. My husband is the one. Sometimes I'm like, I'm behind. It's enough. Don't say anymore. My husband is a big talker. So it
Wow.
depends. But you're right. Generally, women talk a lot more
Yeah.
than husband. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, my husband is, I have to say sometimes that's enough. That's enough.
Wow.
And another thing I wanted to touch on is, if we slow down and we take the time to connect with our kids, with our husband, maybe even the neighbors, doesn't matter, right? I want to talk about hugging because it's quite a bit on different platforms, even in the news. About a month ago, I heard about that, about the the power, the happy hormone that is released when we hug. Do you know how many seconds we have to hug to have those hormones releasing in our body, Catherine?
I don't know.
Okay, it's at least 20 seconds. So 20 seconds, it's not just a little thing like that, right? It's a good like. So
Yeah.
after I heard about all this, I decided with my boys every morning and every night, we do that sometimes. I sit them on me and I just do like, okay, now you're gonna hug mommy. And I actually do more than the 20 seconds. I just hug them and we take our time. And I tell them before, I say, I want a long hug and I just wanna like, let's just like feel each other. But it makes me think also when my kids were little and we're doing skin to skin, right? When our kids were doing skin to skin with us, um, it's known that it's like co-regulation. It helps them calm down. It helps them sleeping better. I can go on and on and on about it, right? But I noticed that my boys, that I've been doing this, and it's funny. I'm doing it at night, and at night, often as busy mom, right? We do 3 million things. Often, okay, now it's nighttime, and in my head, I'm like, oh my god, I have 1,000 things on that crazy list, and I have to do something. Like, love you, boys, bye bye, because now it's my time. It's time to have my adult time, I should say. But I have stopped and do that at least 20 seconds, even a bit longer, to relax them. And goodness, I have a piece of paper here because I wrote down the what happened exactly is hormone release during a meaningful hug. Okay, first of all, there's more oxytocin, and oxytocin is the love hormone, so that promotes bonding and trust, reduce anxiety and stress. So why not a good hug like this before to go to bed? The other hormone is dopamine. So it's the reward hormone. So the increased feeling of pleasure, motivation, and a boost a mood. So when they go to school in the morning, a good hug, put them in a good mood and a good loving hug. Why not, right? And the third hormone is serotonin. So it's the happy hormone, which regulates moods and promote a sense of calm. So before to go to bed, it's awesome. It also helps fighting depression. So morning and night, it's a good one to have. And of course, now the fourth one is endorphin, which is the body natural painkiller. So what that means, it promotes relaxation, it relieves pain and stress. And often pain is creating better stress, right? So it kind of goes hand to hand. So I thought it's a good thing. If parents don't know where to start, where this big tornado, before they evaluate everything, 2 good hugs a day. One good hug in the morning, at least 20 seconds, and another one at night. Why not, right? And it's also good for us. It's all these hormones are also released on their little bodies, but in our little bodies, so it was actually it's benefit for us start the day or to go and relax and center yourself and have a good night. Mm-hmm.
That's really, I love it. I love what you just said. And it's something that, when you think of, when you were talking, immediately I thought of my brother, who is notorious for his hugs. And that's exactly what he does. Like when he comes on to you, it's a full hug, like you feel his strength, but it's not fast. Like it must be more than 20
Yeah,
seconds. And that is so clear in my mind as how powerful that is. But I don't know if it's connecting the dots, but what a easy thing for parents to incorporate in their normal routines. And it doesn't take money. It doesn't really take, it doesn't take a minute. And the benefits, the rewards, for both, that's huge. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you very much for sharing that.
yeah, you're welcome. I was it kind of really like when I saw this, I was like, I'm putting this in my schedule. So I just started this about a month ago, and I feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel better. Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Well, this is a lot of information and very practical, very uh, tips and tricks and strategies and skills that people can really, if you're intentional about what you're doing, some of these ideas and strategies, I'm sure, can make a really huge impact on how parents are getting through raising, especially boys. So I thank you very much for that and for your preparation here. This was a different kind of a podcast interview for me, and I really relinquished control over to you, and I'm very grateful for your organization of it and being able to cover so many things in the time that we've shared together. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I like we said at the beginning. I said I put so many little points together, um, and we kind of it kind of fit into the conversation, and I love that we could share. Also, I always like to know what the person I'm talking with, what they think about, and I'm sure by sharing this, we probably made a lot of people, a lot of parents think how how they can do better or how they can be aware
Yeah.
because what they're doing right now and what you're doing right now, it could be completely perfect and there's nothing wrong and there's no problem. But now you're aware of if behavior change, that
Yeah.
maybe is something that we need to look at. And yeah, no, but thank you for welcoming um, all the points, all the ideas that I had, and yeah, it
I
was awesome.
appreciate it. If people want to learn a little bit more about you or hear more about your, especially parenting uh,
Yes.
ideas, where do they go?
So you can find a lot of information on if you visit our website at mom-talk.ca. You can find me, Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also find Mom Talk on Instagram and Facebook. There's a lot there, and you can message us. We have a lot out there. We have well over 200 episodes, and it goes from zero or even when you're pregnant all the way until teenagers. And there's also some good piece on for moms and for parents, because I have to say, Catherine, at the beginning the Mom Talk was called Parent Talk. So
Parent.
we have a lot of content for men in there too, and we realized with time, because we've been doing it for so many years now, that we had more moms listening to the podcast. So the podcast transformed to Mom Talk, but really men are welcome. There's even we didn't even change the episode. I'll say also you'll see the title on the Parent Talk. The first I think 100-ish are on the Parent Talk, And yeah, I think sometimes you have to align with who listens to more of the episode. But I do have few mans when we change a name that says, "Why are you changing? I'm a guy." And I said, "Well, it's like 90+% of people listening to us are women, and I like to talk. Uh, I like to talk with moms, but I don't forget the dads. That's what I'm trying to say."
Well, I have listened to quite a few of your episodes, and parents would benefit from doing the same. So
Well,
thank
thank you
you
for saying
again.
this.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah. Thank you again, Genevieve. I know how precious your time is, and I hope that you feel that that time was honored today. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for having me.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us on Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. Be sure to check out Genevieve's links in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and tune in next week for more conversations about raising boys. If you're a parent raising a boy in today's complex world, be sure to explore sonhoodcoaching.com. You'll discover expert guidance and support designed to help you unlock your full parenting potential. As Amelia Gambetti says, this job is too difficult and too beautiful to do alone. Together we can explore this adventure and discover the magic of raising boys.